in the title of the video, I talked about Afrostocracy, hypocrisy. And so I want to start out the show by first, definitions are important. So I need to define for you what I mean and who I'm talking about when I talk about the Afrostocracy. So the Afrostocracy composes of 5 segments of people within our culture, the Black culture. If you are from another ethnicity, I am not excluding you, but the name Afrostocracy kind of lends meaning that it has something to do with the Black American culture. So you are welcome here. This is not a conversation that excludes you, but I have to expose this, and I've done it in previous shows, but I need to define what I mean when I talk about the Afrostocracy, right? So those are the preachers, the performers, the pundits, the professors, and the politicians. Those 5 sphere of influences represent the Black elite of American society they have certain characteristics and things and attributes that they do that are actually detrimental to the progress of the Black American population in America, such as they perpetually wield and exert power of other Black people by selling them victimhood, keeping them perpetually grieved, and never offering any viable solutions. So they keep you kind of dependent on them in their message because they're constantly showing you, hey, see how much of a victim you are? Oh, woe is me. Oh, poor Black person. Listen to me. I'm going to tell you all that's wrong. And it's not us. It's those people over there that are doing all those mean and nasty things to you. Let's go ahead and get them, right? That's what the Afrosticians do. They amass wealth because there has to be a money component to this, right? They amass wealth, status, and prominence off the plight and perpetual oppression of their own people under the guise of help and solidarity, right? Power to the people, Black Lives Matter, things like that. When you think of the Afrostician, think the race hustler, right? Think the faux pro blackity blacks, right? Those are members or an archetype of the Afrostocracy, right? And the reason why we're going to discuss the Afrostocracy tonight, because we need to discuss the hypocrisy of the Afrostocracy, right? These people are the ones that say one thing in public, but they function and move in the world completely different the way they do in private, right? So those are the ones that want to be altruistic and champion that, we should have open borders and that people should just be able to come here. And like you heard Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson say, the ones who are coming for love and support, we need to be there for them, right? So they'll say that. That is the public opinion that they have on that particular issue. However, they never advocate for those people to come into their gated communities where they live and work and play. They just want you open up your arms and welcome them in, right? But see, they live behind the gates, the gated houses with the security guards, right? That's where they live. They have no intention on saying, I've got 5 extra bedrooms. Let me take some migrants in. It's rules for thee, but not for me, right? They also, so we mentioned that they advocate for open borders, appearing to be altruistic and humanitarian, but they would never advocate for illegal immigrants to live, play, and work in their neighborhoods, right? So, for example, the Cori Bushes of the world, who she wants the defund the police campaign to just go full steam ahead. However, she has personal security that has firearms. And because, it's hard being a Black woman, and Black women, we're not safe. So I Miss Cori Bush, I need security, but you know, we don't want police in your community because the policing that is done is harmful to Black people. Do you see the Afrostocracy, hypocrisy kind of? Am I making it plain for you? Am I painting a good word picture for you? Okay, next, the faux pro-Blacks who talk about how much they love and support and want Black people to thrive, right? They're always talking about that. However, they champion ideals, policies, and agendas that do the opposite. Let me give you some examples. These are hands down 100% are pro baby murder. Pro baby murder. They want more babies. They want access to more. No, we don't need a viable, thriving Black community where we are talking family values and raising our children. No. They don't want that. They want to have as many Planned Parenthoods in your community as possible. They want to make it so easily accessible that your babies never have a fighting chance to live and become. No, they are pro baby murder, hands down. Without distinction, even up until the baby may have taken their first breath and they're out the womb. Yes, let's kill them then too. Yes, this is very inflammatory, wicked language, but these are the positions of your Afrosticians. So why not talk about it, right? They are pro gun control, right? They forget the fact that we're Americans and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights should apply to us too. No, they don't want you to be able to defend yourself because guns are bad, not the fact that they're lawless policies which give room for violent crime and violent criminals to proliferate because you got the defund the police agenda. No, you don't need no guns. You don't need no guns because guns are the problem. Mind you, they have armed security guards. They want security details. They want to make sure their homes are safe and protected, but not yours. You're too stupid to be able to know how to go and get trained on how to handle a firearm. No, that's not good for you. You need us to tell you that we need more stronger gun laws, right? Like the ones in Chicago, the city that's got some of the worst crime in this country. Yes, we need more gun control laws like that city has. Let's move right along. The Afrostocracy, they are anti-school choice. They want your kids to stay in a horrible, underperforming or non-performing, low-performing school while they send their children to private school. Absolutely. Their children are going to get the best education, but not you. No, we can't afford to let your child go to a charter school or let that money follow your child to the private school of your choice, or let that money follow you and you can use it for a homeschool curriculum for your child. No, your child must stay in this school and have to deal with the bullying and the LGBTQIA, element of P, XYZ agenda. Absolutely no. You don't get the freedom or flexibility to be able to know how to best educate your child because your child belongs to all of us. I've actually heard them say that, well, who is it? Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, the little girl with the frizzy hair. Yes, her. She said that your children are not your own. No, your children belong to all of us. Y'all thought I was joking when I said that the government thinks that it is God. They really believe that they are God and they have full control and reign over your children. So no, school choice, you will never see them advocating for school choice. You will never see them saying, hey, maybe these schools are bad and we should have school choice so that the schools can compete. They can't do that. Why? Because they get money from the teachers union. And if the teachers union is as powerful as they are, says absolutely not, nope, we're not going to compete We're not going to attempt to clean up these schools. We're just going to keep passing on these children who aren't learning. We're going to let them graduate, right? But they don't know nothing. We're not going to do that. Why? Because the teachers union is padding the pockets of the politicians and everybody else. It's just one big mess. They don't tell the truth about what's really going on in our communities. Nope. They don't do that. They will lie and say, peace, peace. There's nothing to see here. This is just a summer of love. They're just blowing off some steam. They're just being kids. There's nothing to see here. They know that chaos is ever present. They know that these communities are riddled with so much crime that people are being murdered senselessly at the hands of violent criminals who are multiple repeat offenders, but they're not interested in doing anything about it. No, they actually demonize the police. They would like you to believe that we just know we don't want to defund the police. We just want to kind of reform the way the police police and improve that. No, not after their inflammatory language decimated the relationship that communities had with police. Now that relationship is so fractured. You got mass flight. You had the mass exodus. People retiring early from the police force because they're like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not about to put my life on the line to protect and serve, only to be afraid that if I remotely, not even legitimately make a misstep, I'm going to be vilified by the media, who is also, they're an arm. You've got actually members of the Afrostocracy in media. Those are like your Joy Reids, your Whoopi Goldbergs, your Sunny Hostins, those individuals like that, Jamel Hills. That's your Afrostocracy gatekeeping. They do the bidding, right? They do the bidding of the global elites, and they say what they want them to say. That's your Roland Martins. He is king, ace, king. I'm not going to get into Roland right now because that's a whole nother show. But let's talk about what else the Afrostocracy does, right? They convince you that you truly are a victim and that it is not, a series of bad or miscalculated choices that have placed you in the position that you are. No, they want you to be perpetually upset and angry, so much so I'm talking like with hatred in your heart for people who don't look like you. Because if they can keep the attention off of them and place it over there, you won't even be paying attention to how much wealth they've amassed when they're either in office or holding these positions in media, the performers. I would even throw the athletes in there. They tell them what to say and they incite outrage. It ain't even legitimate. They don't even be having all the facts. They just say it. And they know just on the basis of a shared ethnic image alone that you're going to believe it and you're going to run with it straight down to your own destruction. Absolutely. They love to implicate the white man. Yes, we're still looking for all of these white men that are causing so much destruction in the Black community. But for some reason, we can't ever seem to find them. We don't know their names, how tall they are, what color hair they have, what's their build. I don't know. We're still looking for them. But it doesn't matter if as long as we can say we're still looking for them, that's all that matters. But they love to implicate the white man, stirring up hatred in your heart. That is, when you think about it, when you sit and just say, you know what, when was the last time that the white man, like I could name him and say, this is what he did to me, and this is the injury that I sustained as a result of their action. You're like, I can't really name any because it's not happening. So much so they even have to manufacture. They have to manufacture hate crimes like your Juicy Smollet's. Yes, he's part of the Afrostocracy. And then when they get found out, they'll just shield one another from accountability and they will ride that lie till the wheels fall off, and then a couple of miles a little further, he is still saying that he was innocent after it's been legitimately verified that he wasn't. But why do you think they did that? They need a boogeyman. They need some sort of figment of the imagination to keep you enraged while their agenda on the back end is being pushed so that you don't even know what's happening. Did I mention that they were obsessed with race? Did I mention it's no longer we are smart. We are a resilient people. We can do anything we put our minds to if given the opportunity. It is not that anymore. It is you must give it to us on the sole basis that we are Black. No, we're not interested in earning it. We're not interested in competing. You just need to do it because we're Black. So it incites a sense of entitlement on the basis of nothing, and it elicits a form of just pride and arrogance, and you walk around thinking that your boo-boo don't stink and that you should have because you deserve. Forget showing your work and being treated like an image bearer just on the mere basis that you're human. They want to add some intrinsic value on top of the fact that you're an image bearer just because you got a little bit more melanin. And so you just walk around demanding things, right? You start like, for example, there was a story that was recently put out about a physician's assistant who got into an altercation with like 5 young Black men, a pregnant woman, over a bike. One of those bikes where you scan the QR code. If you live in an urban area, you might know what I'm talking about. But you scan the QR code and it allows you to rent the bike. And race baiting hustler pimp number 1, what's his name? Rashad Ritchie. They're actually facing a defamation lawsuit as we speak, because without knowing any of the facts, just because it was a white woman and 5 men, they assumed that it was racially motivated, and they caused this woman, they said so many horrible things about her that her job is in jeopardy. They called her, of course, a Karen, a racist, all of these other disparaging names, to where she's getting death threats. Mind you, now that the real facts have come out, that she actually had bona fide evidence that that bike was hers, he wants to backtrack and say, we just need to be a little bit more careful and discerning. But at the time you assumed that it was racially motivated, and you castigated that woman because you got hatred in your heart, and you're paid to incite anger and more hatred amongst the rest of the Black population on the basis of race, because that's what you get paid to do. So they would never, ever, ever support reforming the child support system. Nope. They're not interested in that. I do intend to do a show about the family court system and our current child support system, but you'll never see any of the Afrostocracy politicians, performers, definitely not the preachers, advocating and saying, we might need to revisit our current child support system because the Black family is severely broken and disjointed. The child support system does adversely affect us. Not that it doesn't affect others in the same way, but with us, because we have such a high incidence of single motherhood, it just hits a little different in our community, right? They would never discuss reforming that system. They like it nice and broken because they know if they can keep Black men and Black women constantly fighting and at odds with one another versus promoting Black families, marriage, nuclear families, they're not going to advocate any of that like that. So they like having the family court system, and they absolutely love having the child support system broken, unfair, and unbalanced, because they know that if we can weaponize this system, we'll be, they claim, the high incarceration rates of Black men they claim to care about that, but they don't. They really don't. It's one big web or interconnected circle. Like, all of these things interconnect, right? So the prison reform, the child support system, the nuclear family, like the school to prison pipeline, they're all behind all of that. But they like to point out there at the boogeyman and say it's their fault when they're the ones that actually perpetuate it. Okay. So that leads me to my next point. They're anti-family, not in word, but in practice and function, right? So the reason why I say that is because every now and again, they'll point out and kind of celebrate, a distinguished Black couple because, they stayed together and they want to, just make a big deal about that. But they're not programming our young people to see healthy nuclear families as normal. Why? Because they like to promote the village. They want you to believe that no, you don't have autonomy and authority over your children. You got to include the village, and knowing that the village comes with their own worldview and their own set of standards and morals. So this is why I say they are anti-family, right? They also purposely align themselves with sexual perversion. They are quick to promote, and I was shocked at this because historically, Black people, we have always looked at the sexual immorality or the sexual perversion of same-sex relationships as, it's not necessarily something that we didn't participate in, but it was definitely something that we did not glorify and put out on the world to display. But here's the hypocrisy, right? You would see it in our churches, right? Minister of music, y'all know what I'm talking about, James Cleveland, so forth and so on. And we knew it existed, but it was like, don't ask, don't tell. We know that we know, but we were definitely not trying to purposely expose our children to it. And I'm not making excuses and saying that this is right. I'm just telling you historically how it was. We knew that it was wrong, and we knew that there was no way you could normalize it and convince us that it wasn't wrong. But the Afrosticians, particularly your Al Sharptons and people like that, particularly the ones in the media and in the political sphere, you notice that they start echoing that talking point. They start, all of a sudden, now it's okay. What used to be taboo culturally for us, it's now okay. And now there's no stopgap or any sort of gate put in between that sexual perversion and our children. They are silent. They don't ever talk about protecting our children. They know that the agenda that's being pushed in these schools, and in fact, they can't speak out about it. Why? Because then that means that they wouldn't have been able to champion the Black Lives Matter movement. Why? Because Black Lives Matter was started by 3 lesbians. Right? So you hitched your wagon to the sexual perversion thinking that you would just, I'm supporting my people, power to the people. That's what you thought. But what you didn't realize, and now you put yourself in a compromising situation. Now you're in a pickle. What you gonna do? If Black lives really matter and you're gonna support that cause, it came with the sexual perversion. So now you can't even really speak out about it without looking like a hypocrite. But when I tried to warn you and say this ain't the cause you want to hit your wagon to, here come the names. You bootlicking Uncle Tom. And I'm like, people online, they say stuff like that because if they were in my presence, they wouldn't say it in my face because they're not crazy. Now they think that they might realize that I'm a little crazy, but they're not gonna say stuff like that to my face. So they say it online because they can shield and hide behind a keyboard, but I ain't seen nobody pull up in the A calling me something crazy like that. I just put that out there. Okay. So they don't celebrate the best of us. What do I mean by that? We are applauded and celebrated, and we are given the royal red carpet treatment. But there's only certain criteria. You got to meet a certain criteria for that to happen, right? If you succumb to a tragic circumstance, like police choke you out or something like that, it has to involve a white person. They're not going to celebrate the many brilliant young men and young women that are working hard and going to law school and becoming doctors and engineers and just doing great things. No, you only get the royal red carpet treatment, and you get like the top of the line funeral. You have to be a miscreant. You got to be a criminal. Like, you got to be way down there to get celebrated, to where you get the funeral processional and all of the political operatives in the community. They come out and they speak at your funeral. Yes. Mm-hmm. But if you're somebody like a young female police officer, 24 years old, beautiful, with bright future ahead, you don't get those kinds of funerals. Nope. You don't even get acknowledgement on the mainstream the news media, like the black outlets, those news outlets. No, they don't talk about the Ariana Prestons. No. People like that, Ariana Preston, David Dorn, like actual heroes, people that are in the trenches, giving back to their community, protecting and serving the most vulnerable us. No, you don't even know their names, and they not. Al Sharpton ain't coming to your funeral, right? And I'm gonna tell you, there's a reason why. Black lives only have value to the Afrosticians when the return on investment is high enough for them to cash in. So they're gonna look at it like, okay, Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, and all the rest of them, they kind of gauge like, I mean, no white person involved, like there's no racial component. They just died under an unfortunate circumstance. A black person did it. Nah, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to. I can't participate in that. They're not gonna participate in that. They don't care. They don't care. Furthermore, let's talk a little bit about the black pastors. More than any one of these groups, this group, the black pastors, should be the most ashamed. And they should be ashamed because, to me, they are worse than all of the other ones, because they're supposed to be shining light in dark places. And hear me clearly, when I talk about black pastors, if you know me, you know some of my best friends, my closest brothers in the Lord are black pastors, and they know I'm not talking about them. And my regularly listening audience should know I'm not talking about them either, because I regularly celebrate the faithful shepherds, the faithful men of God that are holding the line. I am talking about the ones in the visible church, the ones whose names are always plastered in bright lights. They can't speak about any of this. They have to go along with this agenda. And how do we know? They may privately think something different, but how do we know that they're going along with this agenda? Because they literally invite this agenda into their pulpits and into their churches to address you, to convince you that it is a godly thing to vote for a Raphael Warnock or a Stacey Abrams or a Kamala Harris. Absolutely. They take big money from the DNC to let these fake false gospel pimps open up their pulpits, and they let these people come in, and they get to champion their wicked ideologies that are harmful to the black community, and they collect a check. That's what they do. They are silent. They're supposed to be the countercultural voice. They're supposed to be the lone ranger that stands alone when nobody else is standing. The preacher is supposed to stand alone. He is supposed to be the one that can't be bought, right? Am I right? But no. Instead of echoing what thus saith the Lord, they will echo and stand arm in arm with the world. They sure will. And then they'll take your money and ride all the way to the bank. How do we know this? Like I said, they invite this wickedness into their pulpits in order to garner your support, right? And even if you were to call a meeting with the pastor, say, "Hey, pastor, I know you had such and so and so." Well, first of all, if you're lucky enough to even get them to talk to you, because getting a meeting with a lot of these pastors just doesn't happen. But if you were to go to say, "Listen, I am compelled by scripture to respectfully, I need to have this conversation with you because I need to understand, why would you allow this individual to come to our church and address our parishioners, knowing that they have a stance on the life issue that is anti-God and it is wicked? Why would you do that?" And then watch them fumble the ball and start stuttering because they don't have a biblical defense. We've heard a few of them try to wiggle their way around and say, "Well, for me, I wouldn't do it, but I can't tell you." So now you can't tell me how to live. How do you preach a sermon? How do you exegete scripture if you can't open up the text and tell me what it says? But all of a sudden, you can't echo what scripture says because the price was right, right? These Black preachers, they're the most wicked because they are silent on the sexual perversion of our children, and they won't say anything about the LGBTQIA agenda because they've provided shelter and a safe haven for LGBTQ. See, I'm getting tongue-tied, just too many letters, right? They've provided shelter by way of their own music departments. They know who these people are, and it's okay for him to flame on Sunday as long as he got the choir rocking and singing real good for you. As long as they can do that, you'll pimp them and use them for their gifting, but you won't preach the gospel of repentance to them and walk alongside them and labor and say, "Listen, this should not be named among us. It's unlawful. We are believers. You don't get to come to Christ and keep your sin." They don't even use the word sin. So you can just forget that. So the question we need to explore now is, how did we get here? How did we get to the point? Now that I've given you, I went deep. That was a whole show on the Afrostocracy, but I needed to explain it that way because you needed to understand. Now that you understand how the Afrostocracy moves and operates, it will help you understand how we got here to this migrant crisis. I know you're like, "Oh, we are talking about the migrant crisis." Yes, we are talking about the migrant crisis.